All I know is problems, though. Can't do that. I rap with a Pyrex and a project. I'm cracking a pot. I'm a prospect. I'm a black rat on the dot on the news. Fucking dissect. It's a lie.
What's up, everybody? How about that intro?
Why am I not surprised you went with Kendrick? I am not surprised.
It's a real song. It's from like a Beats commercial. I love it, though. It's like
nice.
So I got so bad in the YouTube video, slowly faded out.
We got it.
What's up, everybody? Joe Caporoso, Dalbin Osorio here. Likely to eventually be joined by Connor Rogers, busy man who hopefully could hop in sometime in the next half hour to 40 minutes. So Turn on the Jets podcast, our regular season kickoff preview edition. We're going to talk a little bit about our predictions for the Jets season, talk a little Jets Oakland, which is only 4 short days away somehow at this point. It's insane, when you think about how long this offseason has felt.
Definitely.
And, also do a few of your questions and then kind of just talk about some of the things that we have on the way from the site this upcoming year. Dalbin, we ran our roundtable predictions on the site today. I'm going to give all my predictions tomorrow in a 30-pack article. You, however, did get your predictions out today.
Yep.
Why don't you kind of talk through your expectations on what you see for this team in terms of what you predicted and what you think is kind of a ceiling and a floor for them?
Sure, not a problem. I mean, what I predicted was 9-7 and a playoff appearance. I do think that this is a team that the talent level has been increased. They've added players at pretty much every key position and either have gotten better or stayed the same. Like, I know we're going to wait and see how good Brino is in comparison to Austin Howard from last year, but it seems like Brino has fit in just fine with the offensive line, and they seem like they're not going to miss a beat. It all comes down to Geno, right? Like, I feel like we've talked ad nauseum about the cornerback position and who the famed number 2 wide receiver is going to be, right? And it's all fine and good, but if Geno doesn't show up, if we get the Geno that we got during that 5-6 week span in the middle of last year, then you're looking at a 3-4-5 win team. However, and Greg Cosell released an article today where he said that Geno was probably one of the biggest players that he was impressed with during the preseason because of just how much he's grown from last year to this year, and I expect that to continue. I think their ceiling is 10-11 wins because I think like everybody's focused on the early matchups between Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago, and you've pointed this out before. Those aren't necessarily juggernauts on defense. Like, Geno's going to be able to move the ball. It's just a matter of whether the Jets defense will be able to stop Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Megatron, Golden Tate. Will they be able to stop them enough to give the Jets a shot? But I think 9-7, I think playoffs. I have them losing to Denver in the AFC Championship game. Like, that's how. Because I
feel like the wild card run, like 2009.
Yeah, because you know what? Because they have an offense, and I'm a big fan of the Predators, the 3 running backs, Powell, Ivory, and Chris Johnson, and they're going to be able to run the ball come December and January. They're going to be able to run the ball, and that's where you win those games, and they're going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. I think Phillip Rivers is on the schedule as well. Rex has owned him enough times that you kind of feel comfortable, even though they're going out west. I think 9-7 is the floor. I'd be disappointed if they go 8-8. But I do understand that they could go 8-8 and theoretically have a better year than last year. But I think 9-7 in a playoff appearance is where they're headed.
Yeah, I think it's been a little frustrating in that all the preseason talk has been so heavily dominated by this cornerback position, and it's almost like it's taken the spot of having a quarterback controversy because that just hasn't taken place this year. And that's a credit to Geno, credit to Vic, and a credit to Idzik and Rex for being very clean with this quarterback situation. Geno's been the guy the entire offseason, and he's played well, and at least to this point of the offseason, risen to the occasion, and Vic hasn't created any waves as the backup. So kind of filling that place has been this issue at cornerback. And, let's be clear, and, I wrote this in the article I discussed this week, the Jets' weakest position is without question cornerback. Mm-hmm. It's an unproven spot, and it's fair to be critical of Idzik for signing Demetri Patterson, who's not on a team in the NFL right now, and thinking that he could be a starter opposite of D. Milner. That being said, can't really blame Idzik for Milner having an ankle sprain or Dexter McDougal tearing his ACL, or those two things kind of coming together. So yes, the Jets are in a relatively difficult spot at corner, but cornerback is 1 out of 22, particularly that second cornerback spot, under the assumption that D. Milner will be back in week 2 or week 3, and are the Jets automatically a 4-12 team because they're going to have Darren Walls or Antonio Allen starting at cornerback? I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I think that's kind of shortchanging Rex Ryan and shortchanging the rest of the defense. And I think what people have kind of fell into the habit of doing is saying the Jets have an awful secondary. They have an awful secondary, the worst secondary in football.
Right.
Secondary includes the safety position. The Jets aren't awful at safety. They have a lot of talent at safety. And I think once Steve Milner comes back, you're going to see Antonio Allen kind of moving back into a cornerback safety hybrid role. Even if he is staying at corner, you have Calvin Pryor, who you took in the first round this year, played very well this preseason. You have DeJuan Landry, who is he a plus starter? I don't even know that, but he is a competent starter who knows Rex defense and can hold his own out there. And again, this is a Jets secondary that was 22nd in the NFL last year with Antonio Cromartie, who was awful by any metric you look at. I think Pro Football Focus had him at the 109th out of 110 ranked corners last year. And just the eye test from watching him play, he wasn't healthy and was a mess last year. And then you had Ed Reed down the stretch not playing well either. And the Jets still managed a 22nd ranked defense. It's very much in the realm of possibility that they could improve on that slightly this year with Allen a year better, with Pryor now in the mix, with Darren Walls being better than Antonio Cromartie on one leg, and this is a major if Dee Milner could come back and be healthy. So, maybe the Jets go out and they have the 19th or 20th best pass defense, and that's a weak spot. Teams have weak spots, and the Jets' weak spot in their depth chart right now is corner, but are they going to be the 32nd ranked passing defense in the NFL? Absolutely not. And is it something that automatically means that they're starting 1-6 or 0-7? No. I think there's such an infatuation on this kind of week 2 to 7 stretch of the schedule. Right. What do you think is kind of the best case scenario for the Jets at the halfway point? Once they get, let's say, through their first 8 games, Dalvin.
Through first 8, I mean, I think 5-3 might be their the best thing because again, I don't like the Green Bay matchup. And I know by any metric we look at, going into Lambeau Field week 2, after the Packers have had 10 days to prepare for you because they open tomorrow and then you would play them Sunday, it's a bad matchup either way you slice it. However, they can win that game because if you remember in 2010, Rex Ryan held Aaron Rodgers to only 9 points in MetLife. So it's not like he can't scheme for him. The Chicago game is tough, but I think they can win that because they get that in MetLife. You look at San Diego, I think they can win that. New England and Denver back-to-back, that's probably where you're going to look at like 1 or 2 losses just because I think they'll get New England later in the year. I think they'll get them in week 16. I don't think I'm playing them that early, especially with the Patriots' improved defense. I think it's tough. But 5-3, I think if I tell you that we're going to be 5-3 through 8 games, I think we all sign up for it because the rest of the schedule does look manageable enough that 5-3 puts you in a great position for a playoff run.
Yeah, I think when you look at this kind of the first 7 games that everyone's kind of obsessing over, it's obviously critical to beat Oakland at home to start the season just because you need to beat teams that you are superior at.
Right.
I could very well, I haven't put these out yet, but I could very well be picking the Jets to win by more than 10 in week 1 and lose by more than 10 in week 2 just because, like you said, going to Lambeau with Green Bay for their home opener, 10 days to rest, that's a very, very tough matchup.
Definitely.
But to be fair, it somewhat reminds me of week 2 last year when we were looking at the Jets schedule and saying, hey, I think they could beat Tampa week 1, but man, that week 2 game on a short prep week for New England, that's probably a big loss. And that was a 10-10 game, 13-10 game late in the fourth quarter, and they played very well.
Yeah.
That being said, am I expecting them to win in week 2? No. And I think when you look in those first 7 games, there's 3 games where they're very clearly underdogs. Underdogs to maybe the 3 best teams in the league by a lot of people's metrics. Green Bay, Denver, New England. The Jets are lucky to at least get Denver at home, but the Jets are going to be 6 to 9 point underdogs in all those games. Really where the sweet games are going to be under the assumption that they can beat Oakland is Detroit and Chicago at home and San Diego on the road. You got to find a way to get at least 2 of those 3 games, beat Oakland, and then maybe hope you pull an upset out of one of the other 3 where you're a big underdog and then get through that first 7 at, maybe 4-3, and then you have Buffalo in week 8. And when I look at the Chicago and Detroit matchup, it seems to be a matchup that a lot of people are quickly writing off as a very, very tough game or a potential loss for the Jets. And, are the Jets going into Detroit? Are they going into Soldier Field? No. They're getting to host these 2 teams at MetLife. The Jets were very good last year and have generally been good under Rex Ryan. And was Detroit all that good last year? No. They have Calvin Johnson. Stafford's got a big arm. He also turns the ball over a ton. And has a ton of question marks on defense. And Chicago, a lot of people like Chicago as a sleeper team this year. Think they could be a sneaky Super Bowl contender. They're going to have a terrific offense. But again, how good are they on defense? How good are they, coming on the road? We know Jay Cutler can get rattled a little bit and turn the ball over. I just think, those are 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. And those are probably more winnable games than people are assuming.
Right.
When you look at San Diego, another team similar to Chicago, who a lot of people think is going to make that jump and be a very, very good team from start to finish this year. Tough going to the West Coast, but the Jets have played well against San Diego and Phil Rivers on the Rex. So not easy games, but I don't look at like San Diego, Chicago, and Detroit as kind of on the par having to deal with Denver, Green Bay, and New England. Now, let's not skip too far ahead. Let's talk about Oakland, who announced a couple days ago they're going to start Derek Carr over Matt Schaub. It would have been fun to watch Matt Schaub try to go. But what was your kind of initial reaction to that? And, what do you think about Carr coming in and making his career debut on the road in MetLife Week 1?
It's a bad matchup for him because Rex, I think they ran the stat with 7-3 against rookie quarterbacks. The 3 losses were to Wilson, Tannehill, and Manuel. I think were the 3 losses. And even in the Tannehill loss, Tannehill got knocked out by play 5, and Matt Moore played the rest of the game.
And 2 of those 3 came from a bad 2012 Jets.
Right.
The worst roster in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, no, bottom. But yeah, it had to be the worst roster. So it's a bad matchup for Carr. That's a game that Dennis Allen, honestly, for the future and the betterment of the Raiders franchise, should have started Matt Schaub, because that's not the first game action you want to give Derek Carr. Rex Ryan's going to have a field day. The defensive line is going to have a field day. And it's going to be one of those games that, honestly, it's going to be overhyped because I believe the Jets will win, and I think the Jets win by more than 10 points, and people are going to start to say, wow, well, look, they got all the issues solved. And you have to remember, it's the Raiders. It's the NFL retirement home. That's where guys go to just set up shop and not do anything. It's not that impressive to me if they beat the Raiders on Sunday. I think when we played them last year, we beat them by 10+, and Marcel Reese was their leading rusher. So you can't really buy too much into it. Get the W, like you said, start off on the right foot. But Oakland's a team that has bottom 3 or 4 talent in the NFL. They're not a very good team. The Jets have to win that game, and Derek Carr is not. He's not. Kudos to him if he comes out and shreds Rex Ryan's defense, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the line for this game is very likely to settle somewhere between 7 and 8, and I think it's completely reasonable. This game reminds, and I hate, I worry sometimes that, it's being a fan of the team kind of clouding judgment with any game like this. But this reminds me a lot of the 2012 opener at home against Buffalo, a game that I think a lot of us just felt really confident going into. Not even that the Jets were that good of a team. It was just the right matchup. Mm-hmm. The Jets had always kind of beat up on Fitzpatrick and played well against Buffalo. This is kind of a similar thing. I just think this is a very good matchup for the Jets. I think asking a rookie quarterback to come on the road and beat a Rex Ryan defense with very limited talent around them and a lot of questions on the offensive line, when the Jets have arguably the best defensive line in football, I think, I don't care if this line gets as high as to 8 or 9. I think this is a game that the Jets are going to win by, honestly, 10 to 14 points, if not more. I think this could very easily be a blowout, which is all well and good. And I think they need to win this game, and I think it's a huge, huge letdown if they lose this game. Well, this is a very tight game, in the fourth quarter. This is a game you need to go out, show that front seven that you've been talking about so much all summer. And, Geno should play very well this game. And I think it's important for them to get some confidence and some momentum for a good start heading into Lambeau. Looks like Connor Rogers just joined us, settling in. What's up, Connor? How's it going?
Nah, pretty good. Long day at work. So I just walked in the door.
Real quick, we touched on this with Dalbin on his roundtable prediction today. Talk through what your prediction is for this Jets season in terms of win-loss and, what you wrote today and, what you think is basically the floor or the ceiling for this team heading into Week 1.
I have them at 9-7. I don't think they make the playoffs this year just because I think the AFC is pretty strong, and I need to see the proof that they can take over the division. Right now, I don't think they can. I really liked what New England did to their defense in the offseason. And I think the Jets can compete with New England, but I think New England's the more consistent team week in and week out, wins total. And I think the Jets go 9-7, second place in the division, and I think they just missed the playoffs. But I think it's kind of one of those years where you build a lot of momentum going into 2015 where you solve a lot of question marks. I think this is the year that they finally solve the quarterback question mark, and I think they see play from Geno Smith that makes them cross that off the list, and they can go into the draft and the free agency after this year and know we have a quarterback, which a lot of teams can't say. So I think that'll be a really big step forward. And I think the floor, it would have to be injuries. I don't see this team losing more than 6 to 7 games. I think it's absurd seeing some of these predictions. I know SI had 5 wins. I just don't see how a team with this kind of caliber defensive front ever loses that many games in one season. You don't see it in the NFL. And I think their ceiling would probably have them at about 10 wins. It would have to be, they'd have to really show improved secondary play to find a way to get to 11. You don't really know what you have at corner right now, even when D. Milner comes back. So I think for it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think 5-11. I think, the worst team that Rex Ryan has had here was in 2012. I think that was a very weak roster from top to bottom, and they still managed 6 wins that year. So it's very hard for me to see, this team really bottoming out to a 4-12, 5-11 type season, even 6-10. I have a tough time seeing, just because I don't think the division is all that good outside New England. I think New England's terrific. I think them and Denver are battling to be the best team in the conference. But Buffalo obviously has a lot of questions about E.J. Manuel. They just paid Kyle Orton. And Miami, not fully sold on their offensive line and kind of switching offensive systems again. I'm not sure if they're any better than a 7-win. That's kind of hovering around 500 7-win team that they've seemed to have been almost the last 10 years. I'm not sure they really get over the hump this year. While we wait for to rectify itself, let's quickly hop into a couple of questions we got on Twitter.
Sounds good.
Another question that we continue to get is, will a veteran see, cornerback be signed after week 1? And I think we can kind of use that to branch off to talk about McFadden and Adams, 2 veterans the Jets added. Were you surprised at all that the Jets cut Ellis Langster? And, what are your thoughts on, Adams and McFadden as kind of back of the roster depth guys? And maybe, as Connor wrote, McFadden maybe eventually being a guy who could push Kyle Wilson in the slot.
I really like Phillip Adams, actually. I think he was one of the guys that I had said on Twitter that I would have liked for the Jets to sign. I really think in Seattle, you're looking at it. They have so many good cornerbacks. And, he was also on the 49ers as well, who don't have that many good cornerbacks. But around the time he was there, they had pretty decent corners. So I like Phillip Adams. I like Leon McFadden. It's very rare that you see a 3rd-round pick cut so soon. But again, tying it into Stephen Hill, it's very rare that you see a 2nd-round pick cut so soon, right? But I do think McFadden wasn't a pick of Patine and the regime.
Do yourself a favor, man. Listen, I'm not even trying to glow, well, just a little bit, but you're not helped by you and your agent talking at the meeting. He's like, he actually might, at this rate, not catch a pass ever again in his NFL career.
It's true. It's true. No, and we'll get to Stephen Hill definitely because he's been ridiculously frustrating. But so I like the McFadden signing. I think he's about 5'10", 190. So he's more suited to play the slot. I know Khan made the argument for him to replace Kyle Wilson, and anything that gets Kyle Wilson off of the field, I am for, because that frustrates me. Hearing that he's a good cornerback, it's very frustrating. So I do like McFadden and Adams. I'm surprised they cut Langster though, and I actually think. And I'm gonna go find it. I think I predicted he would get cut in June when I did my Ellis Island. I know.
Sorry, Cole. That's for Cole. Now
I know Cole is hurt because he was pulling for Ellis to get playing time. So I'm surprised they cut him because he's been a special team stalwart for the team since Rex has been here. But I really like the addition of Adams and McFadden. I think it's done a really good job of building up the bottom depth of this team, which is something Tannenbaum didn't do while he was here.
Yeah, Connor, real quick, why don't you talk about McFadden just because you did that write-up on him over the weekend and, included some nice gifts and talked about how he could maybe take some time away from Kyle Wilson. Just, your real quick thoughts on McFadden for guys who aren't familiar with him. What's his background? What kind of style of player is he?
Yeah, I like him a lot because it's kind of bizarre for a team to give up on a 3rd-round pick that early after 1 year where he saw a lot of playing time. And I know Cleveland's pretty heavy at corners, so I kind of understand it was more of a numbers game. And it was also a regime and a head coaching game where this guy was on the roster and they had no ties to him. And but still, after 1 year, it's pretty surprising when you're talking about how valuable a 3rd-round pick is. To put it in perspective for Jets fans who had really high hopes for Dexter McDougal, this guy was a 3rd-round cornerback draft selection for the Browns a year ago. And, they cut him loose, and he's on the Jets obviously now. And he played in 16 games last year. He started 2. There's a couple of quick notes on him. he doesn't really allow anything after the catch, which is a huge improvement from what the Jets have at the slot corner position right now. Because if you look at Kyle Wilson, there was a lot of times where he got beat over the top, or he just was missing tackles in the preseason, which from him was even rare. So that's pretty bad. So it's nice to McFadden. He's a good tackler. He definitely covers everything in front of him really well. Really good downhill speed. What I pointed out in the breakdown was that he doesn't get his head around on the deep ball, and he kind of gets the ball caught over him a lot, which I saw a lot from Darren Walls actually too last year, which is kind of interesting. But Walls is definitely a much more complete outside corner. And so with McFadden, you got a guy that's a project. He's a third-round pick from 2013. It's going to be a while. They brought him in as a project, but he's also a guy that definitely could pencil in as that dime corner when they play teams like the Broncos, the Packers, the Patriots twice, even the Dolphins, who might spread it out. So the guy's going to be on the field, that's for sure. They didn't sign him to play special teams.
So I want to just hop over to just some, general things about the site and about the team, going into the season real quick. Our very important sponsor, PSA, Nimble TV. We've been tweeting the links out. We put it on Facebook. Check it out. Basically built for people who are going to be on the road during this season, looking for a way to check out Jet games. You can link it up to your cable provider in the tri-state area. Nimble TV, appreciate you. Look for the Nimble TV 12-pack on Friday. Also, make sure you stay with us here because we actually did get all of our swag in stock today, so we will have the ability to give away some tickets and some signed merchandise throughout the year, but you will need to be subscribed to this YouTube channel to win it because we need more subscribers. I think we're like at 260, so keep them coming in. Anyway, just something on the site and kind of leading to the season, and I know when people talk about how we cover the team, a common criticism this offseason has been that we are too pro-Idzik, too optimistic about the team, and this is just kind of part of, writing about the team. There was a time that our site was called Too Pro Tannenbaum, then Too Anti Tannenbaum, and Too Pro Sanchez, and Too Anti Sanchez. It's just, the way it goes when you write about the team and you put your opinions out there, and everyone's entitled to criticize the team or criticize the way we, cover the team because we're certainly not perfect and we're certainly going to be wrong about a lot of things. You can just look through our archives as proof of that. I will say that I think, just speaking as someone who's generally been pro-Idzik since he's been hired and is trying to be consistent with that, it's that I'm going to wait signing Eric Decker to a big contract, and if that contract works out and he plays well, I weight that heavier than giving $1 million guaranteed to Demetrius Patterson and him flaming out and not working. And that was a complete miss, just like Mike Goodson was a miss. GMs are going to miss, but those misses don't count as much as hitting on your first-round pick like Sheldon Richardson and potentially hitting on your other first or high-round picks. So I think it's going to be really easier to look at Idzik after these first two seasons and say, hey, what's weighted most heavily when kind of evaluating the job he did? It's his early round picks and it's his big free agent signings or his big trades. So after 2 years, what does Sheldon Richardson, Dee Milliner, and Geno Smith look like? What does Calvin Pryor and Jason Morrow look like or project to being? How did Eric Decker, Chris Johnson, and Mike Vick fit into their roles? How does the Chris Ivory trade look? So I think once we get to 2 full seasons, those are kind of where the weight of what he did is going to be more heavy, more so than missing on a Mike Goodson or Demetri Patterson. You hate to miss on those guys and get nothing out of them and throw that money away. But, to an extent, while he's missed on some of these mid-tier and lower moves, he's also found guys like Sudfeld and David Nelson off of scrap heap who have become contributors, same with Willie Colon. So, I think at this point, and, maybe I'm wrong with this, it just seems like there's been more positive, especially in terms of kind of building the entire roster, than negatives. But I think we'll have a much fuller picture after 2 years. So, Dalvin, Connor, if that's something you guys want to speak to, you guys get, tweeted at and comments on your articles too, and, how you kind of, your angle and how you're covering the team going into, 2014. Dalvin, we'll start with you.
I mean, yeah, sure. I think I'm very pro Idzik, but that's because I was very anti Tannenbaum. So I think that's part of it, right? I do think he missed. He didn't target any of the cornerbacks that I would have targeted. I actually didn't like Demetri Patterson. I would have liked Alteron Werner. I thought Werner would have made the most sense. I think I've said that enough times in the podcast for it to be true. So that was probably the only thing that I didn't like about him. I loved going after Decker. Mike Goodson I liked. It just didn't work out. You're going to miss, like you said. I think that's appropriate. The one thing that always throws me, and I think Khan can attest to this too, the one thing that we always get is that, like, it's always impossible to show optimism for some of the moves that he has, because then you get criticized for that. Like, oh, well, no, you guys celebrate everything that he does. And it's not that. It's just I like a lot of the moves he's made. And I think it's okay to do that, even as an outsider. And I've spoken to, like, fans of other teams. They like what Idzik's done. It's very different than what Tannenbaum did. And so what he's done is, like, you look at the team, like, there's actually depth on the team that hasn't been there in a long time. And going forward, I think, like you said, you're not going to see the fruits of that labor for maybe another year or two. But I do think that he's building the team the right way. You have to build it back down you have to break it back down in order to build it back up. And I think he's doing that. I have no qualms with it. And I mean, people are entitled to their opinions. I think that's fine. But I think you can't be mad at what he's doing so far.
Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough situation because I've gone both ways about it. I definitely like Idzik overall. I mean, nobody in the NFL gets it perfect. As you can see, look at the 49ers. I mean, that's a team that's been glorified for their drafting like crazy. And if you look back at some of their drafts recently, it's been pretty atrocious. So it goes both ways. I mean, you're never just going to get it perfect. And that's a team that competes every year. So with the Jets, I definitely like the direction they've gone. There's things that I haven't liked. I was pretty vocal about the cornerback situation when they just kind of let the market pass them by. When it was a market that you can't be frugal with, I was pretty loud about that. And it's funny how things work because when I was, a lot of people were just like shredding me. They were like, oh, well, you know, you either want to waste all the money on these guys. Well, guess what? Those were good players that were on the market. Vontae Davis, Altron Werner. I know guys like Shields didn't make it to the market, but he set the market at the price. You know, they were going for $8 million per. Werner went under $7 million per for he's the top, you know, tracking corner in the game. So I definitely had a problem with that. It shouldn't have gotten to the point where they needed to bring in Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who is just, you know, not a stable corner, and have him, you know, basically disrespect the Jets by walking right over to the Giants and taking the bogus offer that they offered. So I think it was handled pretty poorly in that regard, but I like the building through the draft method a lot, and I think free agency you have to be careful because the same people that complain that they didn't go out and buy a whole wide receiving core or you know, some outrageous deal elsewhere will be the same people that would be really upset when Mo Wilkerson or Sheldon Richardson or Quentin Coples or Damon Harrison become free agents. Jeremy Curley, it's the same people that want to see Curley as a Jet for the next 6 years. And when you look at sometimes it does work out in his favor because when you look at the deal Eric Decker got, that's about as market value as you're going to get for a guy that's going to go out and catch 6 to 8 passes a game and haul in double-digit touchdowns. And you know, the joke is right now, laugh out loud Jets, like Decker's career is over, but you know, we'll see the season play out because him and Geno Smith look really good right now. So that's a really high upside move. So it's one of those things where it goes both ways, but overall you have to love the direction that he's putting the team in. He's not making moves that are going to bury the team if they don't work out. It's not an all or nothing type thing. It's you know, they're building for sustainable success. So
yeah, I mean, I think what's been nice with the drafts, and again, a lot of people don't see the value of the 12 draft picks. It's package everybody, you know, trade up and go get a bigger name. You know, what if you traded, you know, 3 of those mid-round picks to move up and get Martavius Bryant? Well, now he has a sprained shoulder. I think he's on the 8-week IR. So you never know what's going to happen with these mid-round guys. And, you know, I look at it like the Jets used the 5th-round pick on Will Campbell last year. Didn't do anything when he was here. He's already been cut. I doubt he ever plays in the NFL. And, yeah, that hurts. But the Jets took 8 guys last year, took 12 this year. When you look at Tannenbaum, took 4 guys in 2010. When you so you flip that out, he took John Connor in the 5th round. You take 4 guys, and one of those guys ends up out of the NFL. Never mind, like 3 of them aren't even have contributing roles in the NFL, and Kyle Wilson's on his way out after this season. That's where you really get hurt, and I think that's why you saw the Jets struggle so much in 2011 and 2012 because people forget that over the course of 2009 and 2010, the Jets drafted 7 players in 2 years. That's mind-boggling to think about now, but what a difference between drafting 7 players in 2 years and 20 players over 2 years. And the Jets have 10 of those 12 draft picks still in-house, still in organization. And if they get 2+ starters out of that, let's say Pryor and Amaro are plus starters, they get 2 other starters and 2 other depth guys, that's how you actually kind of build a roster with young talent. So obviously we need to see how that plays out. We need to see how these rookies play. But I think it was at least a promising enough preseason for Pryor and Amaro, who are both going to be kind of slated for big roles. And I think Jeff Cumberland hasn't practiced in, like 2-3 weeks?
Yeah.
I think very quietly tomorrow is probably going to start on Sunday. And even if he doesn't start, he's going to be playing a ton early in the year. And I think he could be a guy who very sneakily puts together a very strong rookie year. You know, I don't know if he's going to end up, you know, second on the team in receptions, but he could be a guy, 40, 50 catches, hauls in 5 or 6 touchdowns. And Yeah, I think well, we're over the 8:30 mark here. Real quick, let's just hear a prediction for Sunday. Score and maybe one or two players to look for who you think might have a particularly big game. Dalvin.
Sure. I'll start with Chris Johnson. I think Chris Johnson's going to run for over 100 yards, and I think he's going to have 4 catches. I think the Jets win 24-13. I think it should be a game that they win handily. If they don't, then I think we have more to be concerned about than that brutal 2 to 7 week stretch that we're going to have. But yeah, I think the Jets win handily going away.
Connor?
Yeah, I say they win 27-14. I definitely think you'll see a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown. So then, they'll probably have their usual couple field goals, and Geno Smith will probably lead them in the end zone twice. And I don't expect the Raiders to really move the ball that much. If they can't get the run game going, it's going to be a really tough day for Oakland and a rookie quarterback who I think will be all right in the long run, but I don't think he's ready to face Rex Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure on the exact score yet, but I think the Jets win this game by somewhere between 10 and 17 points. I think they'll get out to an early lead, and then maybe Carr will hit maybe one big play down the field, and everyone will be freaking out about that one play. But I think that maybe will come when the Jets are already up 14-3, 17-0, or something like that. I think they'll be pretty firmly in control of this game from start to finish. I'm really looking forward and hoping that Geno Smith starts strong, because again, he gets to open up against not an impressive slate of defenses, starting with Oakland. So he has a good chance to kind of build some early season momentum. So I hope he doesn't turn the ball over, and I hope he hits a couple balls down the field, particularly to Decker, who, again, just because he is white does not mean he's a possession receiver. He actually can be a vertical, deep threat receiver. Insulting white receivers everywhere, like myself, like I once was at a very small school. But I think they'll play well, and I'm excited to get out there on Sunday. Are you guys going to the game on Sunday?
Are you, Con?
No, I work Sundays.
That's right.
Yeah, I have class Saturday, and I'm battling a cold, and my very pregnant cousin is taking the tickets, and she's due in a month, and this is the last Jets game she can go to.
You guys,
I will be at the Monday night game against the Bears.
Yes, I will be at that one as well.
Yeah, we'll make sure we gather up for some away games this year too at one of our various locations around the city or Hoboken. But yeah, I will be in the building Sunday. Looking forward to it, up in my nosebleed seats, which means much more sparse tweeting, which is probably good.
Yes.
But excited about Sunday. Thank you for everyone for listening. Tomorrow we'll have 30-pack of predictions. We'll have our normal kind of Friday to Sunday coverage leading up to the game on the site. So stay with us at TurnOnTheJets.com. Make sure you're following Dalbin at disable_MMI. Make
Yes,
sure
sir.
Connor, now you switched it on me, so it's C Rogers _NFL.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
There.
when you're tweeting at us. Spell is the name right. There's no C, there's no Z, there's no C.
I'm like a kick.
Just spell it right. Don't use any Idzik idiot puns. They're already outdone.
Pretty much.
Guys, we'll see. I think we're going to start doing this Mondays. We'll see. We'll let you know when we figure out what fits our busy schedules that aren't
Sounds
quite
good.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace.